Bank valuation, evaluation, valuation, the difference between what agents do and valuers do. We're going to tell you all about it, make you a pro in a second. Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 369. My name is Michael Berger, Mark Novak, talking about bank valuations, evaluations. What's the difference? What's the deal? Can you get screwed? Mark, how are you?
Good, buddy. Good. A common misconception with people, they get confused with, I need to get a valuation on my property. Who do I call? Do I call the bank? Do I call the agent? Can the agent do a bank valuation? We're going to clear it up today.
Yeah, there's probably, I don't want to say bad. It's almost like when you get the call, you get commonly the call where a client calls you and they're like, I need a valuation. And you think they may be looking at selling now. And then when you're asking the questions,
You're going to be excited.
Yeah, you get really excited. And they're like, oh, no, it's just we're refinancing or tax purposes. I need this. Oh, okay. Well, you actually may need a valuation from a licensed valuer, not an opinion of value from an agent. They're probably the two distinct dialogues we use internally. Do you need an opinion of value or do you need a valuation? But your average mum and dad, investor, property owner, they would have no idea the difference. Tell me what it's worth. Can you do it or not? Is what they're thinking. And it's like, I want it the highest price or the lowest price.
And you're thinking, this is the same thing. It's the same thing, but they are two distinct different animals, the people that perform a valuation and an opinion of price. I guess you could say that the one that – say that again?
Tell us how.
Tell us how to do it, son. So guys and girls, when you get a valuation done on a property, a valuer is it's basically a degree that these guys are doing in often property economics valuation. There's a lot that goes into it. A valuer can be often sued for his valuations, so they have indemnity insurance for being valuers. Valuers will get asked to do valuations for many different reasons. Often banks require a valuation of property so they know that the banks know that their position's protected. The banks know that they're not going to get screwed. They get a valuation of the property, particularly if they're lending money off it. They want to know that it's going to be safe. Deceased estates, why would you get a valuation, Mr. Bergio?
Yeah, a lot of the time deceased estates, you need a starting point and you need that sort of value of the property. So a lot of the time they'll get an independent valuer. As you said, they've got the degree. There's a lot more liability that goes with them putting their value there. So they get the valuation.
There's going to be litigation potentially.
Yeah, it's huge.
With banks, with deceased estates, there's potential legal people suing each other. So
this way,
we want to get a valuation.
A bank will give someone money based on what they say. Like if they've got, say, equity in the property and the valuer says it's 900,000, they may get no money. But if it says it's 1.2, the bank may give them 300 grand. Like it's huge. What it means, the repercussions. And we do see a lot of time they're quite conservative because of that. Because can you imagine if they say it's worth 1 million and they default on the loan, the first thing the bank's going to go to potentially is the valuation because now we've got to sell it. Let's say it was 6 months later and it's like, it's worth 500,000. The valuer said it was worth 1 million. So we lent this couple 800K. It's pretty big.
So when an agent gives when a bank valuer gives a valuation, they assume there's going to be litigation. They assume that they could get sued. They assume that they have to protect the bank's position because the banks often order the valuation, not the well, yeah, you're paying for the valuation when you're getting a loan, but in effect you're paying for the bank, so the bank has got their position protected. But they're really conservative now. If you were a bank 9 months ago, if you were a valuer 9 months ago, and banks were estimating, CBA 9 months ago was estimating the property market was going to dip up to 40 to 50%. Top three of the four banks put data out suggesting the market could correct that badly. If you were a bank valuer back then, what would you have done with valuations? You would have gutted them. The property worth 500,000. Yeah.
And we had that 3 years ago with new developments. Do you remember, Mark? But so many valuations were coming in 10, 20% below the contract price. And I had, as you know, you got friends in that industry, and they were like, basically, yeah, anything that was bought off the plan, say 2016 when it was booming, settling 2018 where it wasn't booming, everything's over, and they were hitting everything by 10, 20% under. And I think a key,
I do want to say good morning to Michelle, good morning to Tony, good morning to Aliu, and I do want to say, Michelle, we want you on the show again. That went bananas last time you're on. Michelle is a country real estate agent, so we want to have you on again when we can. Back to you, Burge, sorry.
Yeah, so they're super conservative because they're just looking at risk, and they've got the different categories as well. But a thing to just think of the difference between both. A valuer is really looking at the last 3 months as the rock solid evidence. They don't look at really trends moving forward. They don't look at they don't really look at the last sort of couple of weeks because they don't take. Well, they're probably looking even further back because they only take settled sales. And if a settlement's 6 weeks, they'll take 3 months of that 6 weeks. So anything that's exchanged in the last 5.5 weeks, they won't look at. And all the agents out there, we all know the market can move very quickly week to week, and there can be trends and swings coming forward. So when you're an agent putting a price on a property, you look at the market the last sort of 2 to 4 weeks, and then also where you see it going, and they may be coming onto the market in a month. So sometimes you're quite optimistic. If it's a mil, you'll say a mil to 1.1 or a 1,025,000 because you can see it get there. But a bank valuer, if it's a mil, they're like 900 to a mil because that conservative, they're looking at past data as well, which is a big thing.
So when there's a value, so guys and girls, if you've just tuned in, we're talking about the difference between an agent's opinion on a property of a price and a valuation, as opposed to a valuation done by a valuer. How much does a valuer cost before we close off on valuations? Normally about
$300, $250, $450. Some banks will do it including like for free if it's for refinancing, but you can generally get a third party and do it yourself. A lot of people don't realize that, especially when buying. They feel like they can only get one valuation. They don't know they can engage their own valuers, which is very handy as well.
And closing off on valuations, they are done for banking purposes. They are done for deceased estates, inheritance and stuff like that. They are done for divorce.
Yep, divorces.
Litigation in court. Divorce is a big one. They are done for partners buying each other out.
Yep.
Business partners buying each other out. They'll get valuations. Often people will sometimes get 3 valuations and take an average of those 3 pros. They pay a lot of money, but it gets rid of any of that. They are always conservative. Any other types of reasons will get valuations on a property: divorce, banks, deceased estates.
Anything that's more than the sale. Like, it's not just selling because you're buying another home. Think of it that way. Like, you're selling it, but it's attached to a divorce. You're selling it because you're attached to business. Like, if anything more than is when you get the valuation, besides settling, getting your unconditional approval, like from that point of view.
Okay. So now let's move over. That's valuation, right? We got that. Now let's move over to what an evaluation is, what a real estate agent is, if they do overlap in an agent's valuation and evaluation. So, Michael, what does an agent do when I call up a real estate agent for a price? What's the difference?
The difference is you're sort of looking forward. As I said, with the valuer looking backwards and 5-6 weeks back, where the agent will also do that. But they're also looking at the last 2 weeks of the market and also where they see the market going. But where a valuer won't look at, agents almost got that inside knowledge and relationship with buyers. Buyers who they know what they may pay for a certain property because they've been looking for it. Like if you may look at a property and be like, yep, a valuer said 900 to a mil, but I reckon it's 950 to $1,050,000. But I've got a couple of buyers been searching for this because a lot of, we call it almost like the X factor, the wow factor, the unique factor of some properties, which can't really be categorized for a valuer, that dollar figure, but an agent can sort of, you can basically just call it optimistic. We're very optimistic and we can work it that way. Like I've said to owners before, I can't justify this figure, but I'm very confident we can get this figure. So you're very upfront. You're like, yeah.
So, okay. So so a bank valuer really can't use an agent's opinion for shit. A bank valuer was only really using stuff that sold the last couple of months. Now, I do have to say, an agent's opinion is often watch out, guys, because an agent's opinion can sometimes be too optimistic, and they want to tell the people that are selling, they want to make them happy and they want to make them feel like the agent thinks the property is worth more. So sometimes when we go in, and this is a trap, sometimes when we go into properties, they're getting 3 agents through, people treat it like a quote, and people will give the business to the agent who goes higher in their price. It is wrong. So be careful about that. But when an agent's doing an opinion on a property, what I love is that agent actually has better experience in the field than a bank valuer. A bank valuer is often doing a valuation in Campbelltown in the morning, Brookvale at midday, and then in the afternoon, a valuation in Alexandria. These guys aren't hyper specialized in the field of what you've got to sell. So if I'm selling a 4-bedroom house in Narrowena and I'm getting 3 agents from the Narrowena, the 3 top agents that have sold houses in Narrowena through, they are hyper specialized on pricing your property because they're just working within that price range. They're just working within that geography of the area. So often they know their shit a lot better than a valuer.
Well, we know there's micro markets within markets, from one side of the street to the other, the left side of that street, the right side of that street. And we know buyers will pay premiums, which a valuer, if they're going in 10 different postcodes and areas, they're just not going to know that as well. So there can be a couple of reasons why an agent's opinion is higher. As you said, buying a listing, it's like everyone wants to hear their house is worth more. Like they just want to hear it. So they feel like whoever tells them, it's like saying you've got the prettiest wife or something. Like they just want to hear it and they'll pick you because you've said it. But that's like the one thing.
Bike or wife?
Wife. It's like you just want to be told that. You want to hear, someone tells you what you want to hear. That. Yeah, it's a good analogy. So an agent will do that.
Wife. I've never had that competition. Good morning, Lisa Novak. Haven't seen you a long time. We all have the same data. It is true. Luke said they was look at old data. Yesterday is new. It is true. Now, I do have to say that when you're looking at all this information, guys and girls, know, and a common mistake that we're teaching this morning, know the difference between a valuation, it's a valuer. Know the difference between an opinion of value, it's a real estate agent. They are not the same animal. One will be more conservative because there is litigation, they can be sued, they will be sued. The other one can still be sued as well, the real estate agent, but there's a lot more less litigation, and they're doing it off. So one's often a bit higher, optimistic,
Yeah.
one's a bit conservative, and one's a bit pessimistic or conservative. In a nutshell, that's what it is today. Keep an eye out for the difference. We hope we've helped you. What have we missed?
Also, sometimes they do street curb valuations where they're not even going into the property.
That's a good one. Desktop or street curb val.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is sometimes the valuer, especially, they just don't even go in the property. A lot of the time, that's generally more a property is exchanged. It's just for the tick of approval for the loan. And it may be a typical property where it's a 2-bedder DY. There's 50 of them. They're like, yep, looks very similar. They just, 800 grand looks good. They tick it off. So
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. So with bank valuations at the moment, they're getting very digitized. They're getting less personal. If the loan ratio to debt ratio is low, for instance, there's 50% cash being put in and a 50% loan being obtained by the bank's not sweating that much on the valuation if things go wrong. So they will say to their valuer, we will accept a drive-by valuation or a desktop with a PC valuation that, we're sort of in that figure. So allow me to give you an example. It's $1 million house, and the bank's only lending $500,000. The bank's going, you know what? If we can get a valuation of 7, 8, 9, $1 million, we're okay with that level of debt. So they'll send out the valuer to do a desktop, to do a drive-by, or do a desktop.
Yeah, and then done, tick it off, and everybody's happy. But you need to know that. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Cheers, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.